You're at a friend's birthday dinner. It is a nice restaurant, the kind where the menu is written in a font you can barely read, and nobody bothers looking at the prices on the right side because they don't want to ruin the mood. You're having a good time. You have had 2 drinks, the conversation is flowing, and someone leans over to ask how things are going with your career or your side projects. Usually, you would say something safe, something like, fine, just busy. But tonight, for some reason, you don't say that. You say the number. You say the actual, raw figure of the portfolio you have been building in secret for the last 3 years. You have been adding to it, paycheck by paycheck, mostly in the dark, without telling a single soul. When you say it out loud, it sounds different than it does when you look at it in your banking app. The table goes quiet for a split second. Everyone turns to look at you. Someone says, "Wait, seriously?" You feel a sudden rush of warmth. You pick up more than your share of the check, and it just feels right. You didn't get here fast. You were 32. You have been working hard in your field, making a decent salary, living a normal life. You started your investment journey years ago because someone told you to, and you were too tired to argue, so you just set up automatic contributions into a total market index fund and forgot about it. You let it run in the background, like a slow cooker. For the first year, the balance was almost insulting. You would check it, see a small, unimpressive number, and close the app without feeling anything. There was nothing to feel yet. It was just a number moving in one direction, slowly, without any applause. Then, somewhere in the second year, it started to feel real. The contributions were still automatic, still invisible to everyone around you, but the compounding has started to do something noticeable. You would open the app, and the number would be slightly more than you expected. Not dramatically, just consistently. Like a room that keeps getting a little warmer without you ever touching the thermostat. By the time you crossed the 6-figure mark, you weren't checking it weekly anymore. You knew it was there. You knew what it meant. It didn't mean you were rich, not even close, but it meant you had built something real. You had built a floor under your own life, quietly, on a normal salary, one automatic transfer at a time. And that feeling, that specific, private feeling of security and freedom, was yours alone. You carried that feeling for months without telling anyone. And then, at that birthday dinner, in the middle of the noise and the warmth, you let it out. You let the number go. The moment it leaves your mouth, you feel 2 things at once. The relief of finally saying it, and something quieter, something you don't have words for yet. The table reacts exactly as you hoped. Someone says it is incredible. Someone asks how you did it. You smile. You feel good. The dinner ends, you hug everyone in the parking lot, and you drive home with the windows down. Nothing feels different. But something is already in motion. The number is out there now. And the people who heard it have filed it away, effortlessly, permanently, without even meaning to. You just don't feel it yet. That is the thing about the ratchet. You never feel the first click. You don't notice it the week after the dinner. You don't notice it the week after that either. Life looks exactly the same. You are still you. You have the same apartment, the same commute, the same group text. Nothing has visibly changed. That is what makes it so hard to catch. It does not arrive as a sudden change. It arrives as a new normal that installs itself so gradually you would swear it was always there. The first sign is a restaurant. 2 months after the birthday dinner, someone suggests a place for a Saturday night. It is a step up from where your group usually goes. Not drastically, but noticeably. More expensive plates, fancy cocktails instead of beer. The kind of place where the lighting is designed to make you feel like you are doing well. Nobody says anything about it. Nobody looks at you. But nobody pushes back. And neither do you. Because pushing back feels cheap now. You set the number. The number is out there. Pushing back on a nicer restaurant feels like a contradiction. So, you go. That is the first click. A ratchet is a mechanical device that only moves in one direction. You can advance it forward 1 notch, 2 notches, 10, but you cannot run it back without taking the whole machine apart. That is not a metaphor. That is exactly what happened at that dinner table. You clicked the ratchet forward the moment the number left your mouth. Now, every social decision you make is measured against the floor you just set. Not by bad people, but by normal ones. Your friends aren't calculating anything. They aren't scheming. They are just doing what humans do. They updated their mental model of you. And now, that model shapes how they move around you. The restaurant suggestion, the group trip someone floats for next spring that is a little more ambitious than last year's. The Venmo request where the total gets split slightly, unevenly, and you are on the generous end because saying something would feel small. None of it is a crisis. Each moment is barely noticeable. That is what makes it a ratchet and not just a bad month. It compounds. Every click forward makes the next click feel natural. Every small concession sets a new floor, and the floor only goes in one direction, up, because you cannot de-escalate without creating friction that costs more than the money ever would have. Telling your friends you want to go somewhere cheaper feels like an announcement. Splitting the check evenly when you have been covering the difference for 6 months feels like a withdrawal. The social cost of reversing the ratchet is always higher than the financial cost of letting it run. So, you let it run. This is what shows up in the data. Right now, a huge percentage of people earning over $100,000 a year report living paycheck to paycheck. Not because they cannot do math, not because the cost of living hasn't gotten harder, it definitely has. But a significant piece of that number is this. They earned more, let people see it, and then quietly built a life around maintaining what people saw. The income went up, the floor went up with it, and the gap between what comes in and what stays never really closes. You are not those people yet, but the ratchet is already running. You can feel it not as a problem, not even as pressure, exactly just as a slight tightening around the edges of decisions that used to feel free. The clicks are coming from the outside, that much is clear. What you don't know yet is that the louder mechanism is running somewhere you cannot see. Inside your own head, quietly rewriting the rules of what feels normal, what feels consistent, what feels like you. It is not just the people around you. It would be easier if the pressure were purely external. You can name it, resist it, have a conversation about it. But what is running underneath the ratchet is something older and quieter than social expectation. It is your own brain. And your brain is very, very good at this. The moment you broadcast a financial identity out loud, your subconscious takes it as a directive. This is who we are now. This is the version of us that exists in the world. And from that moment forward, without you noticing, without you agreeing to anything, your brain begins filtering your decisions through that identity. Every purchase, every social moment, every small choice that seems to have nothing to do with money, the budget option on the menu starts to feel inconsistent. Not wrong, just slightly off. The way a picture hanging crooked feels slightly off. You can't always explain it. You just reach for something else. You are in line at the airport. There is a standard seat and an upgrade for $74. 6 months ago, you would have done the math and sat in the back. This time, your hand moves before your brain catches up. And somewhere in the half second between the tap and the confirmation, you're not thinking about the seat. You are thinking about the version of you that people now know exists. That version doesn't sit in the back. You don't think any of this consciously. That is the point. Your brain isn't asking for your approval. It is just protecting the identity you made public, the same way it would protect any belief you hold about yourself. It is cognitive consistency. It is architecture, not weakness. But it is costing you in increments small enough to feel invisible and frequent enough to add up to something massive. Imagine you are 35. You have a good amount in your index fund, real money, built over 3 years of automatic transfers and deliberate, quiet saving. Now, consider the visibility tax running through your daily decisions. It might be $425 a month. Not in one place, but in the upgrade you didn't fight, the round you bought. The "don't worry about it," you said at checkout, because worrying about it would have felt inconsistent with the person the room now knows you to be. Take that $425 a month and put it into a total market index fund for the next 25 years. At a conservative 7% annual return, that is over $340,000. Not lost to a crash, not lost to a bad investment, not lost to a failed business, lost to a dinner table, lost to 40 seconds of feeling good about something you had built alone for 3 years. Lost to the gap between the identity you made public and the account balance that is quietly absorbing the cost of maintaining it. Let that number sit for a second. Over $340,000. Gone. Not dramatically, just steadily. One consistent, identity-protecting decision at a time. And here is the part that is hard to sit with. Your brain is not doing this to hurt you. It is doing it to keep you coherent, to make the outside match the inside, to protect the story you told about yourself at that dinner table. The problem is that the story is now expensive. It starts with your parents. Not a demand, nothing that uncomfortable, just a phone call. Maybe 6 weeks after the birthday dinner, your mom mentions that the water heater finally gave out. She is not asking. She's just telling you. But there is a pause after she says it. A small, specific pause that didn't used to exist. And in that pause, you can feel the number you said at dinner sitting between you. You tell her you will handle it. You don't resent it. That is the thing that makes this hard to see clearly. You love your parents. The water heater is real. The money is there. Helping feels good in a genuine way. But 6 months ago, before the dinner, before the number, that same phone call would have gone differently. The pause wouldn't have been there. The expectation wouldn't have been there. You would have helped, or not helped, on your own terms. From your own decision, not from the quiet pressure of a room that now knows what you have. That is what visibility does to the people around you. It doesn't make them greedy. It makes them human. You handed them a map to your money, not maliciously, not even consciously. And people navigate maps. Your mom isn't calculating. Your friends aren't scheming. They just updated their model of you, and the model updated their behavior, and the behavior updated your life. One small, natural interaction at a time. There was an 18th century French philosopher named Denis Diderot. He spent most of his life broke. Then, he came into a bit of money. The first thing he bought was a beautiful, expensive scarlet dressing gown. It was the kind of thing that announced something about the life he was now living. Then, his writing desk looked wrong next to it, so he replaced the desk. The new desk made the curtains look dated, so he replaced the curtains, the rug, the art. Within a year, one visible purchase had forced him to replace his entire environment to match it, and he ended up broke again. He wrote about it himself, calling it a strange moral power his robe had over him. The objects demanded consistency. The identity demanded maintenance. Your version of this doesn't involve scarlet robes. It involves a lease on a car that makes more sense now that people know what you have. An apartment in a slightly better part of town because the old one started to feel inconsistent with the version of you that is out there. Clothes that aren't extravagant, but are different from what you wore 2 years ago. A gym membership you don't question anymore. None of it is dramatic. All of it is directional. And underneath the objects, the social layer keeps shifting. Your sister mentions a family trip and looks at you. A close friend asks if you can front a deposit until his next paycheck, and the ask feels natural because, of course, you can. Everyone knows you can. You say yes to all of it. Not because you are weak, but because saying no now carries a weight it didn't use to carry. Saying no means explaining yourself against a number you already put on the table. The ecosystem rearranged itself around what you made visible, quietly, completely, and without anyone meaning any harm. 25 years is a long time to run a comparison, but that is exactly what you need. Time. Because the difference between visible wealth and invisible wealth doesn't show up in year 1. It doesn't show up in year 3. It shows up slowly, the way the gap between two runners widens, not at the start, but somewhere in the middle miles, when the pace that felt sustainable turns out not to be. Imagine two people. Same age, same salary, same solid discipline. One of them is a marketing director. Word got out. A dinner here, a comment there, a few posts that gave the shape of things away. The social ratchet has been running for 3 years. The status spending, the dinners, the upgrades. The family assists the things. It would now be socially painful to reverse run about $500 a month above what they would spend if nobody knew their actual worth. The other person is a supply chain analyst. Same income, same discipline. Nobody knows. No floor to maintain, no identity to service, no number in the room that needs to be lived up to. Their discretionary spend is much lower, just things they actually chose, free of obligation. Over 25 years, the difference between these two people is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Verified, calculated, real. No one stole it. No market crashed. No single bad decision was made. It was paid in small increments every month to the room that found out. Going quiet is harder than it sounds, because the entire architecture of modern life is built to make your money loud. Social media runs on visible upgrades. Credit card rewards programs are designed to make spending feel like achievement. Luxury brands don't sell products. They sell the moment of being seen with a product. The consumer economy doesn't profit from your wealth. It profits from your wealth being visible. Every system you move through every day is quietly engineered to raise your acoustic signature, to make you easier to detect, to pull your submarine to the surface. Which means going quiet is an active decision, not a passive one. Start with an honest audit. Think about what you have said out loud in the last 12 months, not just at dinners, but in comments, in passing, in the casual way people talk about money when they feel safe. What number would someone who knows you assign to your net worth right now? Whatever that number is, you have set a floor at it. Every data point you add makes the floor more permanent, more load-bearing, harder to walk back without the kind of social friction that costs more than money. Stop adding data points. That is step 1. Not a dramatic announcement, not a reversal, not a conversation. Just stop. Let the submarine descend. Let the signal go quiet. The people around you will adjust to the silence faster than you think, because the model they built of you is only as current as the last thing you gave them. Step 2 is harder. It is about what you do the next time you hit a milestone, because you will hit one, the next $50,000, the account crossing $200,000, the month where the compounding finally starts to feel like it has real weight, and when you do, the impulse is going to be there. The same one that was there at the birthday dinner. The number wanting somewhere to go, the relief wanting an audience, the quiet pride that has been building alone for months, wanting just once to be seen. Don't. Not because the pride isn't earned, it is. Not because the milestone isn't real, it is. But the celebration doesn't need a room to be real. You can close the app, make a cup of coffee, and sit with it alone. And it still happens. The number is still yours. The years of automatic transfers, the patience, the Tuesday deposits, nobody congratulated you, for none of that disappears because you didn't announce it. It just stays protected. Step 3 is the one that changes how you move through everything else. Build a number that only you know. Not a budget, not a goal, a floor. Liquid, private, sitting in a high-yield savings account or a money market fund where it earns something while it waits. A number large enough that you can absorb the pressures that used to move you. You can sit at a dinner table knowing you could cover the whole thing and quietly order from the middle of the menu and feel nothing. Not deprivation, not restraint, nothing. Because the security is real and it belongs entirely to you. Not one person in that room has a vote on it. That is what financial silence actually feels like from the inside. Not lonely, not small, steady, You built your current balance alone in the dark, without anyone watching. You know how to do this. The only question is whether you are willing to keep doing it now that people have an idea of your number, or whether you are ready to let the account you haven't told anyone about become the most important one you have. The most dangerous thing you will do this year for your financial future probably isn't a bad investment. It is probably a sentence at a dinner when the number wants somewhere to go. Keep it. You already know what the number is, not the one in your index fund, the other one. The one that represents what you have quietly handed away since the room found out. The upgraded seats, the checks you covered, the water heater, the dinners that kept getting slightly nicer. You didn't add it up because adding it up would mean sitting with it, and sitting with it is uncomfortable in a specific way that has no name. But you know the account you haven't told anyone about. The one growing in the dark, on its own, without an audience. That is not a secret, that is a strategy. The most effective financial move available to you right now costs nothing. Requires no app, no budget, no complex plan. It just requires you to say less than you want to. The number stays yours the moment you decide to keep it.